Hello everybody and welcome to another JGT podcast. Thank you very much for all the positivity and kind comments we've had about this new venture for the Trust. It's going well so far and we're enjoying putting these podcasts together. Today's guest is Dr. Steve Hollyman. Steve completed a PhD in creative writing in 2013 at Manchester Metropolitan University. Since then, he's been a career author. He's a senior lecturer and programme coordinator at Bath Spa University. He's a musician, a JGT trustee, and to be honest, we think of him as one of the family. He's a great guy. And so is Jade, his wife, who we love them both to bits. They've been really great supporters of the JGT. They're there whenever we call upon them. And we really appreciate all that they do for us. Steve's a really interesting guy. I'm sure you'll enjoy getting to know him. So I thought we'd start the conversation with just asking Steve what was a typical day in the life of Steve Hollyman. I do.
Well, I don't like getting up in the morning, really. Never been a morning person. So wake up, feel a bit miserable. Potter about for a little bit and sort of drink loads of coffee, 3 spoons of coffee in each mug. Listen to a bit of LBC radio or something, which riles me up. And then it depends, it's different on different days. So some days I'm working down at the uni. So if I work down at the uni, I go down there and do my day job. Some days I'm working at home doing writing, and I tend to do that at night. So, I tend to start work on my writing after my wife goes to bed. I can be doing that at sort of 1 o'clock in the morning till sort of 4 o'clock, something like that. Other days I'm in the studio with the band, so it varies really. There's no typical day in my life, and that's kind of how I like it. Whenever I've done jobs that are like 9 to 5, I don't really like it. It's not really my way of living.
So when do you schedule your writing then? So at the end of the day, or
it's at night?
It's right.
It's
okay.
at night. I don't know why. I always work better at night, and I always have. And it was the same when I did my PhD. I always wrote a lot of it overnight, and when I it's just how I've always been. So I work better at night.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just because I'm more awake at night or something like that, but yeah. So I tend to work through the night, go to bed about 4 in the morning.
Really? Right.
And then get up a little bit later.
But if it's a day when you're in Bath, obviously you can't do that.
Yeah, if it's a day when I'm in Bath, then I have to kind of get my sleeping pattern sort of back on track. So it's a bit weird. So then I'll be in bed by kind of 10 o'clock and then up at sort of 6 o'clock and then down to Bath. But it's like I was down in Bath yesterday, and I was still home working till sort of 2:30 this morning when I got back.
Right. And where'd you get that energy from? Is it just the coffee, or is it just you? Or?
Well, it used to be from gin,
yes,
not
it did,
anymore.
Yeah.
It's from coffee, I think, and from enjoying what I do. I really enjoy writing most of the time. Sometimes it's dead difficult, and it's not difficult, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
Especially when you feel you're not getting anywhere with something, but in general it's very good fun. I love it.
Just going back to how you wrote your first book,
Go on.
which was mostly done over gin in the bar, to the current. What changed? What made you want to change your sort of lifestyle and you was it just the gin really? Too much gin?
No, well, okay, so the first novel then, I was doing an MA in Manchester, and the reason I did that MA is because I wanted to write better lyrics. And I always write lyrics as prose. So that's why I did an MA in creative writing. and you had to write a novel to pass that MA. So I kind of had to do it. I didn't really want to. And what I used to do, because I was working at the time, a full-time job, I just used to take my laptop to the pub and do like an hour every evening. It was like a routine. And I found that I could write 1,000 words in an hour, because I write quite quick, and then edit it afterwards. So I'd just go to the pub and write it that way, and that's how that one was done. But then now, because I stopped drinking like 3 years ago, and the reason that I stopped was just for kind of health reasons, really.
Yeah.
You know, I was just, I was starting to look a little bit puffy.
I've seen some pictures on Facebook of things, and you were very different.
I was starting to look a little bit. I mean, I've always been quite skinny, and then when my best mate started sort of, making comments about my my rapidly.
That wouldn't be Sam by any
waistline.
chance, would it?
It could be Sam. I thought it would be best to curtail that. So that's why, simple as that, really. And I don't miss it at all. It's fine. I'm actually quite surprised.
How long has it been now without a drink? 3 years, crikey.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's mad, because I used to think that like, there's this cliche about like writers, you have a drink and it like fuels your creativity.
Yeah.
I used to think that was me. I think I got a bit too into like Hunter S. Thompson and that sort of stuff, and but it's completely untrue, actually. I think that I write better now than I used to.
What's that statement to his life become immeasurably better since I've been forced to stop taking it seriously?
Yeah,
Hunter
exactly.
S. Thompson,
Yeah, that is Hunter S. Thompson, yeah.
It's a classic,
and there's
isn't
another one from, I don't know who it is, it might be Auden, and he says that I'm not a writer with a drinking problem. I'm a drinker with a writing problem, which I quite like.
That's a good one. Yeah. So tell our JGT listener or listeners what your current writing project is.
There's a few, actually, because I've signed a publishing deal recently, and that's for 2 novels, and they're going to be out February next year.
Yeah.
So February 2021 and February 2022.
Yeah.
So I'm working on the edits of those that have come back from my publisher.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of dipping in and out of that and making changes on it as I go along. And then I'm also working on a new novel, which is like a campus novel. So it's set on a university campus. I wanted to do something a bit different. It's like a psychological thriller, but set on a uni campus. And I've got like 46,000 words, which sounds like a lot, but it's not really, because I cut so much, you see, as I go along. So I am dipping in and out of that, but it's miles off being done. I mean, I don't really think it's anywhere near as good as it should be. I wouldn't show it to anybody, put it that way.
Right.
But it will be when I finish with it, I hope. I just did what you're supposed to do. Like, I wrote the novel, and then what did I do? I wrote off to get a literary agent, basically. So you send samples of your work, and I got loads and loads of rejections, as you do, and I mean loads, probably 60, 70. So all these stories that you hear about, Harry Potter being rejected 50 times, whatever, it's probably true. And then eventually I got an agent, a really good one. Went down to London, met him, met his team. It's all cool. And then when that happens, they work with you on the novel to get it as good as it can be, and then they send it out to publishers. Then you get a load more rejections, and then eventually a publisher takes you on.
It's hard to get a book published, isn't it?
It's very hard.
Why is it so difficult? Because it's competitive? Because...
Yeah, I mean, I've heard stories about agents and publishers receiving, like, getting on for 100 manuscripts a week.
Right.
And, I mean, they obviously can't possibly read all of them, so they're just sort of sifting through, I think. And a lot of it comes down to, you've got to find the right fit with a publisher that's right for you. And because the stuff that I write it doesn't really fit into any particular genre. It's not like horror or sci-fi or fantasy or things that are quite big.
Yeah.
It's quite difficult to it's quite difficult to sell, I suppose, because it's a bit more niche.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, it's probably more difficult to find a publisher.
Yeah.
But having said that, maybe it makes you stand out a little bit more. I don't really know.
Yeah. Do you think it's more important to be original, or just to deliver what the public want as a writer?
Neither, but I think it's more important to be true to yourself.
Yeah.
And if being true to yourself is writing something that's going to be really commercially successful, then that's great. That's absolutely fine. But for me, it's just about again, because when I wrote that first novel, I had no intention of getting it published. All I wanted to do was get a good mark for my MA.
Yeah.
And I really mean that. I had no intention of getting it published. So I was just writing something that I enjoyed. So for me, it's just about writing something that you like.
Yeah.
And it's the same with music, you know. The sort of music that I've always made is like, it's quite weird, I think, and difficult to listen to.
Well, it's you, isn't it? It's just you, and
I'm difficult. I'm weird and difficult to listen to, aren't I? So, yeah.
What about previous inspirations in terms of authors, writers? What inspired you to, what inspires you to write?
Well, there's a book called A Generation of the Dark Art, okay, and there's kind of a sort of funny story. Well, it's not a funny story, but it's more of an anecdote. I'll tell you. So I was down in Covent Garden when I was about 12, and I had like £1 in my pocket, and they had one of these discount bookshops, and the only book in there I could afford was this book, A Generation of the Dark Art. It was like 50p, so I bought it, and I remember sitting reading it on the tube. I was with my parents, and it very quickly became my favourite novel, and I read it over and over again and told a lot of my mates about it, and then eventually, because I do this sort of thing, I ended up getting in touch with the guy who'd written it.
Right.
And we sort of became friends. Although we've never actually met in person, but we just to this day we exchange a lot of emails. And then when my novel came out, I asked him if he'd provide like a endorsement for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which he did. And then when the third Creep Joint album came out, I asked him if we could call it A Generation of the Dark Art, to which he said yeah. So that book had a massive influence on me, like a huge influence on me. And it's by a relatively unknown author, really. Yeah. Called James Sorrell Cameron. And yeah, it was just by chance. It was the fact that I was in the Banana Bookshop, it was called, in Covent Garden. I think it's still there, with £1 when I was like 12 years old, and it was the only book I could afford. And that changed my life. Amazing. That book made me want to write, I think. Can people buy that book still? It's out of print, but you can still get it. Yeah, it came out in the 90s. So, but I've bought it for I buy it for people all the time. Yeah. Loads. But I've probably bought 20 copies of that book.
We'll try to put a link in the description and try and see if we can get that. Yeah. So how do you balance the demands of the uni post that you've got and writing? How do you? Well, because it's a busy commute, isn't it, and a busy life you've got.
It is, but I've been doing this job now at the uni for getting on for 5 years, and I've said like so many times, yes, it's a lot of work. And it can be stressful, but I genuinely don't feel like I've got a job. I've said that. I absolutely love it. I really, really do. Yeah. I'm still as energetic about it as I've ever been. And it's a job to be proud of. You see, that was always the thing, because before I did the job at the uni, I'd done my PhD and I couldn't get a job, so I was working in a call centre. There's nothing wrong with that, but I just felt like I'd failed or something. Yeah. And so when I got the job at the uni, I was so proud of it, and I still am, and it's just never got old. So for me, it all comes under that umbrella of creative writing. I teach creative writing, and I am lucky enough also to be now paid to write. In terms of my novels, and even music ties into it. So for me it can be a lot of work, but it's always different, and I just love it. Yeah. I'd happily do it for the rest of my life. It's the first time, because I've had quite a few jobs. It's the first time I've done something and I've thought, I'd very happily do this for the rest of my life until I retire.
I think you've just described what success is, because it's not having loads of money. It's it's thinking about what you do every day. As you do, but clearly you're having a good time, and I think that's what's important. So you've mentioned a book that was massively influential. What about sort of a band or a genre? Because music's a huge part of your life. What about a particular?
Well, my favourite band ever since I was 11 has been Metallica.
Right.
And it's weird because I don't really like that sort of music. So all the bands that you would pigeonhole into the same box as Metallica, so bands like Iron Maiden and Anthrax and Slayer and Megadeth, I don't really listen to any of them. But there's something about Metallica that I absolutely love. Yeah. And that has changed my life as well. The music that I make sounds nothing like Metallica, but it was listening to Metallica that made me realise what the distortion button on my little Rock Tech amp did. and that when I pressed it, it masked the fact that I play very sloppily,
Yes, yeah.
which therefore made me fall in love with it.
So what makes it memorable? What makes Metallica's music memorable?
Well, for me, what makes it memorable is the fact that when I heard it, I'd never heard anything like it before in my life. You know, all I'd heard was stuff like the Beach Boys, who I still listen to, and you know, stuff my parents were listening to.
Yeah.
Whereas when I heard Metallica, it was just really exciting for me, and that really made me want to play guitar.
Right.
And it made me want to play that sort of aggressive style of music
Yeah.
that I now play. So
I think I can hear that in the way you play guitar and the way you write lyrics. You can see the two worlds coming together there from the your writing and the authors and the music. So how do you improve as a musician and a songwriter? I mean, do you sit and practice scales and chords, or do you just do it?
I probably should. So when I learned to play guitar, because I had lessons, and I'm still mates with the people who taught me. You know, I still see them, and they wanted to teach me theory, so they wanted to teach me chords and scales. And it's important. But I was never interested. I just wanted to learn songs.
Yeah.
So I wanted to either learn a song that I could take and sing at the acoustic night at the pub down the road, or I wanted to take in a cassette of Metallica and say, work out that riff and tell me how to play it. So in terms of scales and stuff and chords, I don't really know them, and it's even worse now because now I tune my guitar differently. So I've got absolutely no idea of what I'm playing, like literally no idea.
Right.
Which makes it really annoying when I'm playing with people who do know, and I mean annoying for them, not for me, because they're trying to learn a song and they're saying, well, what's that? Is that an A? Yeah. I'm like trying to count it because I know what the strings tune. It's so unprofessional.
Yeah.
It really is. I'm an amateur.
So where does the drive for music come from? Was it, I mean, back in school, was it a way of fitting in? Was it your thing? Because some kids are into sports, some are into, was music a pathway for you through school?
It wasn't a way of fitting in, because, again, with the type of music I play and listen to, you were just called a grebo or something, weren't you? So it wasn't a way of fitting in, but it's just something that I was always interested in, and as it happened, a lot of the people who I was already friends with, so people I'd known since reception class at school, became interested in it as well. And then that led me to meet more people who were also interested, which of course is how I met Sam and met Joe and everybody. Yeah. So it's just something that I was always interested in, and I can't really say more about it than that. I begged my parents to get me a guitar, which they did. And my dad, actually, bless him, he started taking lessons so that he could help me out.
Wow, amazing.
And then I kind of carried on with it and he didn't. Yeah. That's just how it was.
But you made some lifelong friends through music, haven't you?
Definitely,
It's been an absolute, godsend, really. It's been brilliant.
Well, I met you through it, really.
That's true. Yeah, absolutely. Back in the day.
Let's go!
So, moving on a little bit towards all the travel you've done recently. You've been somewhere amazing on your honeymoon. Where was that recently that you went to?
Yeah, so we went to Malaysia, and it's something we'd always wanted to do. We wanted to see... Well, we wanted to go somewhere a bit different that we'd never been before. We'd been to America and stuff. We wanted to see a different part of the world. We wanted to see orangutans in as close to their natural habitat as you can, really. So... When we got married, we were really lucky that people were generous in giving sort of money as gifts. Yeah. So we booked this holiday, and we went to, where did we go now? Let me think. We went to...
Jane's in the room as well.
Yeah, my wife is in the room.
We went to
my
wife.
Yeah. We went to Kuala Lumpur, or KL as the cool people call it.
Ah, sounds cool.
Spent a couple of days there, and that was amazing. I wish we had longer there. Right. But we went to some of the tourist places and had a look round and spent some time there. It was great. Then we went to another island of Malaysia, and we went to Kota Kinabalu. And then while we were there, we used Kota Kinabalu as a sort of base, but then went to different places. So we went to Sandakan, which is where we saw the orangutans at the Sepalok Rehabilitation Centre. We went round Sandakan itself. We went on a river cruise, and we saw things like, I think they're called proboscis monkeys. What are they called? Proboscis monkeys, and fireflies and things like that, which I've never seen.
Amazing.
It was just ace, and it was also, me and my wife have been together. We've been married under a year, but we've been together for nearly 9 years, and we realised the longest we'd ever been together, just the two of us on a holiday, was like 4 days.
Crikey! Right.
So we came back, and there was no divorce, which is nice.
She's still here now.
She's still here.
Still here. So why is travel important to you?
Well, okay, so after my mum died, I think my dad wanted to, maybe sort of take my mind off it a bit. So my mum died when I was 6, and when I was 7, my dad took me out of school for a bit and took me around the world. So we literally flew around the world. We went to Singapore, then we went to Australia, then we went to New Zealand, North and South Island, then we went to Hawaii, then we went to San Francisco, then we went to New York and back home. We were away for like 7 weeks. And it was about this time, actually, this time of year in 1992. And I can't say what it is, but I came back from that and I was a different person, I think, for the better. Right. And my dad always says that he thinks that 7 weeks that he took me out of school, I actually learned more than I would have learned in a year at school.
Absolutely.
So I think that's what set the tone for it. And so then, as soon as I was old enough to, me and my friends would just go on holiday. So we used to just go over to New York, and I've got a lot of friends in different parts of the world. So I've got friends in America, I've got friends in Australia, I've got friends in New Zealand, in Moscow, in places. So I've just been lucky like that, visiting people and meeting people. And I think it broadens your horizons for one thing, and I think you learn a lot about the world. And if you learn a lot about the world, you learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. It's
just something I enjoy doing. I haven't tried. My wife and I did something the other day where we you can tick these boxes and it tells you how many countries you've been to.
Yeah.
And when I actually did it, I was really disappointed because I've been to something like 10% of the world's countries. There's 90% I've not been to, and probably most of them I never will go to. But
so you were 6 or 7 then when Dad took you out of school?
It was 1992. It was March of 1992, so I would have been 7.
Yeah. And you were out for a year, was it?
No, I was out for 7 weeks.
So perhaps half a term or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell us about your mum, Steve. What can you remember of your mum?
Well, it's difficult to know what I remember and what I've been told that I remember. Yeah. So, I mean, my mum was like a stay-at-home mum.
Yeah.
She'd worked as a school teacher, and then when I was born, she stopped work. She became a supply teacher for a bit. Yeah. And my dad had a good job, and he used to commute to London. So for the first sort of 5 years of my life, I guess, my mum brought me up. And then, of course, when she became ill, because the period of time from her getting ill and her passing away was not very long. It was like literally 5 or 6 months from being absolutely fine, like no indication of anything, to suddenly she's not there anymore. My dad's quit his job. He's looking after me now. We've moved house because my dad doesn't want to have to live in the same place. So it's like a massive change, like dead quick.
Yeah.
And so my dad did a great job of shielding me from it. But what people tell me, so people like my grandparents on my dad's side, they always used to say that I'm a lot like my mum.
Right.
I mean, she had a sort of creative streak. She used to do a lot of art and things. She used to write as well.
Yeah.
Although unfortunately I don't have any examples of that. I don't know where I don't have it. I wish I did. And so I think that a lot of my personality comes from her. So I'm told. But in terms of memories, I just remember that you sort of remember things like day trips to like Longton Park, little things like that, don't you?
Yeah,
the memories are quite sketchy.
Yeah.
And I'm sure some of them are invented memories that I've made up.
Yeah.
I'm sure they must be.
And was it cancer that?
It was a brain tumour.
A brain tumour, yeah. And it moved quickly over a period of a few months, and really by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
Crikey.
So it was literally and again, I'm going on what I've been told here. So around September, October of 1990, everything was fine. And then at the beginning of October, suddenly something wasn't quite right. So they were like, I wonder what this is. And then 4 months later, in February, she was in the Dougie Mac.
Yeah.
And 2 months after that, in the April, she died.
Crikey.
It was that quick.
Goodness
It
me.
was so quick.
Goodness me. It moved very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you were great friends with Joe.
Yeah.
And you would have experienced that again, because obviously Joe had a brain tumour. So I mean, Joe was sort of 18 when he was diagnosed, 20 when we lost him. So how old were you then, Steve, when 10 years ago?
I would have been about 22.
Yeah. And what are your memories of Joe? I mean, good times, I suppose.
Yeah.
You and Sam and Joe. I mean, you.
Well, my memories of Joe, I mean, my earliest memories are that obviously me and Sam used to hang out, and we were probably about 12 at the time when me and Sam started hanging out. And Joe used to come out with us on his little green bike.
Yeah.
And he'd just be sort of following us around, and we'd be happy to have him there. And that was great. But then as Joe got older, and particularly as Joe's interest in music started to coalesce with mine, I became mates with Joe kind of in his... It wasn't as though... Because at first, Joe was my best mate's brother. Yeah. Right?
Sure.
But then later on, Joe was my mate as well.
Yeah.
And, me and Joe sometimes used to do stuff without Sam being there. And that was great. We used to see each other's bands. We used to hang out. We used to text each other.
Right.
And, I mean, obviously I remember his sense of humour. And I remember him taking the mick out of Sam.
Yeah.
Which was always really funny.
Yeah.
And, I just remember... I remember the fact that me and him had been talking about we wanted to start a little music project together.
Yeah.
And he was going to play drums in it, and I was going to play guitar. And unfortunately, we never got to do it. And I always think to myself, I would have loved to have heard what that would have sounded like, because I've got no idea.
Absolutely.
We were just going to turn up and jam.
I think he was just finding his feet as a drummer when he became ill, because obviously Sam's so good, and he was always kind of, I suppose, in Sam's shadow to a certain extent. But then he was just starting to really, come into his own, I think, when he became ill.
Well, I remember because my band at the time played with Joe's bands. Yeah. We played with Trial of Origin, we played with Laredo,
right.
And we played with Wolf Shit. Can I say that?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
So yeah, we did. We played with them, and I remember particularly the Laredo stuff. I really loved that band actually, and I remember Joe's drumming was really something else. We played with them at Fat Cats once. It was in 2007, I think, maybe the start of 2008. And yeah, it was. In fact, that picture on the wall was taken at that gig.
We
played at that.
Right. Oh yeah.
And yeah, it was an awesome gig.
Yeah.
It was an awesome gig.
Yeah, we think, well, there's not that many memories to think back on for those times, but we do think of them a lot, don't we? Those times when you played with the band there. So coping with the dark times and difficult times, Steve. Do you have any particular strategies when you're having a bad day that gets you through it, or is it music? Is it reading? Or how do you?
To be honest, I don't tend to have bad days. I mean, I make all these jokes about being grumpy all the time.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't. I can't say that I use writing or music. Maybe I do use writing and music as a means to deal with stuff, but I think I use it to deal with it before it arises, and that's why I don't have bad days. I don't really know. Perhaps if I stopped doing it, then I would start to have bad days.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't really. I mean, some people go to the gym. I mean, I like going for a walk in the countryside. I mean, that's always nice, isn't it? But I don't I don't really have particular strategies for dealing with.
So when you were getting all those rejection letters, all that failure, I mean, was there times when you must have thought, I'm going to do something else, forget this?
There were.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. On more than one.
What kept you going?
Yeah, on more than one occasion.
Yeah.
But then that just made me dead frustrated, and then it made me a bit angry. And then it made me think, right, I'm going to show you.
Yeah.
And I'm not a physically aggressive person, but I do have a way with words. And so it just made me want to write something more cutting.
Yeah.
And more forceful and more persuasive. So it worked to my advantage in a way. I mean, those rejections, the first few times it happens, you're just like, okay, this happens to everybody. But when you get to 50 or 60 rejections, you know, But at the same time, I'm not averse to rejection. To get the job that I've got now, I kept a spreadsheet when I was applying for jobs. I applied for 148 jobs.
Crikey.
Right. Which means I had 147 rejections before I got it. So, and there were all sorts of jobs that I was applying for, not just university jobs. It's difficult, but you've got to keep going.
Yeah,
and I'm
guess
glad
that's
that I did.
Absolutely, and I suppose that's why you've got to be prepared to travel as well. Because obviously Bath is a long journey, but it's worth it.
It's definitely worth it. Podcasts to make it more bearable.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going well so far, isn't it?
Yeah.
The room's full of people. There's lots of people in the room with us. So what do you make of this 2020 so far? What a grim start. We've had floods and we've had storms and we've had celebrities killing themselves and obviously the virus and stuff. What a grim start to the year, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean it's like nothing I've ever known in my life, particularly the stuff with what's going on with coronavirus at the moment.
Yeah.
I think it's early days, isn't it? I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen. I mean, I'm lucky enough in the sense that my job can be done from home. It's going to be done in a different way.
Yeah.
But we can do online teaching and we can find a way around that. But there are people who will not be that fortunate. I mean, only last night actually I was thinking about my publishing company. They're a small independent publishing company, Influx Press.
Yeah.
Companies like that could really suffer. Bars, pubs, hospitality, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, theatres.
Yeah, I've had a mate who's had to cancel his wedding because he can't. He can now no longer pay for it because he will be out of work for the foreseeable future and he's self-employed. Right. He just texted me this morning because I was meant to be going over for his wedding.
Yeah.
So it's a very difficult time.
It's going to be difficult if you work, musicians, isn't it, with theatres closing and venues and things.
Yeah, and people not being able to travel, people not being able to tour.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that had already been made difficult, I think, by Brexit, and now it's been made even more difficult by this.
Yeah.
And I know many of those people, and they've got young families and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to mention any names, but the people I'm talking about because we move in the same circles, lots of them.
Absolutely.
So, I do really feel for them. And to be honest, my own my own worries about it are not about myself. They're about other people that I'm close to be honest. And I feel fortunate for that, but at the same time, very sorry for the millions of people that this is going to affect.
Absolutely. Are you big into social media, Steve? Do you use that much? Are you?
Well, I wrote my PhD on Facebook and how it could be used as a narrative tool.
Yeah.
So I got really into that around 2012, but not so much now because I don't really understand Twitter, and it seems like quite a nasty place.
Yeah.
From what I've seen of it, Instagram, I don't really do.
Yeah.
Because again, I don't really understand how it works, and I think that it can be. And the other thing is, I have got a very addictive personality. And if
we know,
and sometimes that works to my advantage, and sometimes it works to my detriment. So I wouldn't change it at all. But if I got into posting photos of, my rabbit on Instagram every day, that it would take over my life, and I'd be looking and seeing how many people had liked it, and if only 100 people had liked it today but 150 people liked it yesterday, it would put me in a mood.
So is it fair to say JD's got an all or nothing personality?
That is very, very true.
All or nothing.
That is true, and I always have.
I think you're right about Twitter being a lethal weapon. I mean, I think that's largely behind Caroline Flack's suicide recently, isn't it? That she just couldn't live up to the profile, and and we see it in schools because it's a bit like road rage. You're safe behind your computer at home, but the minute you get face to face with somebody, you've got to then explain why you said what you've said. Yeah. So it's
well, a friend of mine just wrote a book about it, a very good book. Yeah. About social media bullying. It's a novel for young adults. It's by Danielle Joando. It's called And the Stars Are Burning Brightly. It's a great novel.
Right.
And it's all about the effects of cyberbullying and people being bullied over social media.
Yeah.
And the fact that nowadays, it's like people have always been bullied at school, haven't they?
Yeah.
But in the past, you could go home and shut the door and they couldn't get to you. Whereas now, they can get to you 24/7.
Absolutely.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
I think.
How do you live up to some of the profiles that are out there if you're a young girl or boy at school, and you see some of these images of people, they're just not real, are they? They're just completely...
Yeah.
Somebody told me of a term the other day called catfishing.
Oh, that's an old one.
Yeah?
That's,
Is it?
that's been around for
That's
8 or 9
when your
years.
social media profile's not really you or something. I don't know.
And they call them sock puppet accounts and things like that. Yeah. There's a film called Catfish that's just about that. I think it came out around like 2013, something like that, maybe before. So that's not a new thing,
Right.
but I think that maybe more and more people are doing it now. Maybe.
Catfishing. What a term.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I don't exactly know
don't
why they
forget,
call it
there's
catfish.
TikTok.
Yeah.
TikTok's another one.
Well, that's another.
I appeared on that recently. I'll show you later
Yeah.
with some kids at school. Yeah.
I've seen people do TikTok. I just don't get it. And like my nephews, they're well into this.
Yeah.
And Snapchat and
Yeah.
it's like the Snapchat. The point of it is you send a message, then it erases itself, doesn't it, after 10 seconds or something?
Yeah, I think so.
But then you can take a screenshot of that message anyway and save it. So I don't understand what the point of it is. But that's me showing my age and my
I'm more
lack of
social
street
media
cred.
savvy than you are, I think,
You
Steve.
probably
I'm a
are.
bit of an IT dude, I am.
Yeah,
I'm
you
all
probably
over
are.
it. I'm all over it.
You probably are. I can't fix anything. I put my back out the other day putting a bolt on the door. It took me about an hour because I'm a bit of a maverick. I sort of had one foot on the kitchen counter, one on the ladders. I was leaning over. Seriously, my back's still hurting now, and it was 10 days ago. It's same with social media. I just don't. I don't approach it in the right way, and then it frustrates me, and I can't get on with it.
Gets the better of you.
It does get the better of me.
So what's next for Steve and Jade? What is the still to achieve? What do you want to do? What's happening? What's the plans?
We were hoping to go on holiday, but we
Yeah.
can't now because of coronavirus. But in the scheme of things, that's not important. I don't know what is next.
No?
Maybe
you've got your
we'll
own
have kids.
business, haven't you?
Yeah.
Jade's got your own business. Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you just say, kids?
We might have
Oh.
kids. Who knows?
Firstborn has to be called Craig.
Craig or
Is it
Paolo.
boy? Or Paolo. Paolo's the one.
That's a private
Paolo
joke. Isn't it?
Shireen, yeah. In fact, he could appear in your psychological thriller you mentioned at the
yeah,
start.
he could. Paolo Shireen. I've said
Maybe
that I am going to do that. I will, honestly. I
Get
will.
him in there.
But I
Maybe
won't tell you when I've done it. And then I'll know whether you've read it or not. Because
Yes.
if you do read it, you'll come to me and say you've done it. And if you never mention it, I'll know you've not read it. So that'd be one. But yeah, I don't. To be honest, I don't plan that much. Really. Which is weird because I do like to be in control of things.
Yeah.
But I like to be in control of them as they happen. I don't tend to plan that much. I don't think I ever have.
Yeah.
I don't really know what the future holds. I hope that the future holds more of the same because I very much enjoy what I do, and I wouldn't want it to change particularly.
Yeah.
Love where I live, love the sort of circles of friends that I move in, and the life that I've got. I don't really.
You're a success, I think, Steve. You're a success.
Well, I'm not where I want to be yet, but
Yeah, you're getting there.
I'm getting. Yeah.
But you're
Maybe.
sort of happy on the journey that you're on. You don't,
Oh, totally.
which I think
That's
is
true. I've got nothing to complain about whatsoever. And I
that's
mean that.
refreshing to hear, isn't it? That's lovely.
Well, it's true, and which is because I do moan a lot, but I moan a lot because I think it's funny.
Yeah.
I don't moan a lot because I've got anything to actually moan about.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
I can't think of anything.
No, the hair's looking good.
Oh,
It's a very different when some. If you look at yourself when you did the Keeping Britain Tidy novel, and the Steve now, you're like an athlete compared to that person.
yeah. I was bald when that came
Yeah.
out because
You
how did that come
smoked, didn't
about?
you? You had a
I
cigarette and a
smoked.
gin and.
Cigarette and a gin, bald head. I was.
What did you see in him, Jade? I don't know where. How this happened.
No, because Jade met me before I shaved my head. I've shaved my head a few times, and I've fluctuated. I'm basically like a concertina or an accordion.
I've
So
no,
that's what my
yeah.
weight goes like.
Well, it's the all or nothing thing again, isn't it? You can't, you can't moderately diet. You've got to just,
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah, and then I can't moderately put it back on again.
You've got to just shovel it.
I've got to, yeah, exactly. And that's happened a few times. Although I've kind of been a regular weight, what I call a regular weight now. I've been the same weight
Yeah.
for a couple of years.
Talking of food, and this is a bit of a tenuous link. The first time we met Jade, you worked at the Suniston Arms, and we didn't know, apart from you had a JGT wristband on.
Yeah.
Small world, isn't it?
And do you know what Marg said? She said, "Oh, you look just like a little angel."
Oh,
Yeah.
crikey. Right, Steve, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to end it there. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jade.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Little white lies, silence is cut with a knife. Defy, rearrange the burdensome chains, bullet make it all better. Deny, rearrange the tiresome games, or they make you feel better. What is it she said when she got in my face? Vitamin pills full of faith, looking at the gaps in her lines, in her thoughts on the page, caught up in apples and eyes, in a sense on the stage.
Steve Hollyman and the lovely Jade. Thanks very much. Great to have them with us for the morning. Steve may well have an all or nothing personality, but there goes the highly intelligent, very switched on person who enjoys his job, enjoys his music, enjoys his life. What a great lesson for us all. Now the music we've listened to this morning, there's been extracts of Creep Joint. Please check them out on creepjoint.co.uk. We've listened to Wheatfield with Crows, an extract of Violet, Magnetique and Swan Song Epic. We hope you've enjoyed this JGT podcast, and we'll see you next time.